So let me start with a brief introduction about myself. My name is Vidita Kochar and I'm the founder of Jewelbox, a brand that makes jewelry with lab-grown diamonds. I'm 31 years old, born and raised in the city of Joy, Kolkata, now reside in the city of diamonds, Surat, and by education, I'm an MBA from Indian School of Business, and I'm also a chartered accountant. Now, people who have known me growing up were not surprised that I chose CA as a professional degree to pursue, because I come from a family of professionals. Everyone in the Kochar family is either a chartered accountant or a lawyer. So growing up, our dinner table conversations were a lot about finance, structures, law, taxation, and very well-trodden and safe career paths were the norm of the family. So when I told everyone that I wanted to get into the jewelry industry, and not just any jewelry, but lab-grown diamonds, a field so new that even customers were not fully aware of it. You can imagine the raised eyebrows and the hesitant smiles that I got from everyone. Now, I wasn't a gemologist and I had no experience in luxury, and I also did not know anything about the supply chain back then. And you may think that on paper this seems like a recipe for a disaster, but it actually proved to be one of my greatest strengths. So today I'm going to talk about how being a beginner actually gave me the power to question assumptions, to challenge things, to look at them from a different perspective, and to innovate in ways that even industry veterans hadn't imagined. Let's talk about what is the beginner's mindset. The beginner's mindset is actually a Zen principle, a way of life in which you approach it with eagerness, openness, and curiosity. And you don't feel weighed down by preconceived notions. Instead, you choose to challenge assumptions, you choose to experiment boldly, and you choose to innovate in ways nobody has done before. And in all of this process, sometimes you end up seeing opportunities that others might overlook. This is actually inspired by a Buddhist principle called Shoshin. Shoshin means a beginner's mind, and Shoshin principle encourages people to have a curious and open mind even when they become experienced or knowledgeable. So let's get into this a little deeper. What are the principles of a beginner's mind? The first principle is challenging the norm. Well, challenging the norm basically means challenging assumptions and seeing how things could actually be, reimagining things as to how they could be instead of taking things at face value. And a brilliant example of this is actually an initiative by the Government of India, Unified Payments Interface, UPI. Now in 2011, the government realized that less than 6 transactions were done per Indian in a non-cash mode. That basically posed 2 challenges: our dependence on cash, and it also was a threat to digital payment, the future of digital payments, because our digital payment infrastructure was not actually as inclusive as it should have been. Now, cash transactions were the norm because digital payments were extremely complex, cumbersome, and they involved several steps. So the government decided to challenge this norm and work on UPI. In 2016, the government came up with UPI and made digital payments as simple as just sending an SMS, right? And thus, in 2023, it was of no surprise to anyone that we were doing almost 3,700 UPI transactions every second. Now, the government built something revolutionary that nobody else anywhere in the world had even conceptualized, let alone building, right? And this is the very spirit of the beginner's mindset. Just because something had not been done before did not mean that it couldn't be achieved. Now, moving on to principle number 2, letting go of preconceptions. This basically means getting rid of your biases and looking at problems in a much more open and fresh perspective. Now, to elaborate on this, I will take the example of a brand that I really admire. Tanishq. So Tanishq was founded in 1994, and in the beginning, in the initial few years, it was pretty much a loss-making vertical for Titan. Customers came to Tanishq, complained of the high gold prices, the high making charges, and walked off without buying anything. So basically, Tanishq was aware that it needed those prices in order to thrive in the market, but it also needed to justify those prices. So in 1998, Tanishq came up with a revolutionary campaign. Now this time was also the time when the jewelry market was dominated by traditional family jewelers. Almost everyone had a family jeweler who they blindly trusted, and they took the word of the family jeweler for the purity of their jewelry or gold. So Tanishq thought, why did no one question this norm? Why was there a preconceived notion that you have got to trust your jeweler, and why did no one challenge it? Tanishq launched a campaign in 1998, Test Your Gold Purity for free. It invited customers to come to its store, bring their jewelry, whether or not it was purchased by Tanishq, and test its purity at no cost for free. So basically what ended up happening was the customers were shell-shocked to find out that their jewelry was not actually as pure as they had believed it to be, and their trusted jewelers were not really worthy of their trust. Now in this whole process, Tanishq established itself as a trusted player in the jewelry market. What it did was understand the concerns of the consumers and experiment boldly, and it achieved something extraordinary, which is the trust of Indians. Moving on to the third principle, adaptability. Adaptability basically means the willingness to respond to change, uncertainties, and challenges. Now this has got to be my favorite example, Zomato. Zomato was started in 2008 as a platform that digitized menus. It was actually meant to help you discover restaurants and have a look at their menus. Initially, customers did not trust the platform a lot, but it included reviews, ratings, photos, and somehow the platform garnered good traction. Now Zomato did not stop here, because it realized that consumer behavior was evolving and customers were also now willing to order their food at home. So it started restaurant food delivery, and we all know how successful that business is rather, right? Again, Zomato did not stop here. Recently, it saw how quick commerce was picking pace, and it decided to acquire Blinkit. 2 days ago, Zomato launched a new app called District, which basically addresses the going out business. So you can buy event tickets, movie tickets, you can book restaurants, discover restaurants on that platform. So one thing that is worthy of learning from this example is that Zomato is a truly curious and adaptable organization. It is one of the most versatile brands that India has seen. Now the fourth principle is at the core of the very mindset, the beginner's mindset, curiosity. All great brands or all great ideas are the outcomes of some brilliant questions. Airbnb. Why should only big hotels accommodate travelers? WhatsApp question. Why does communication need to depend on high SMS charges? Patanjali question. Why can traditional Ayurvedic products not become a part of mainstream market? And Netflix question, why should you depend on DVDs or the schedule of TV channels? Now all these companies that we know today have achieved such success because the stakeholders had the vision to ask the right questions. So this is what the beginner's mind does in action. It tells you where is the gap. It helps you understand the opportunities. It helps you understand your customers, and it also helps you build an empathetic relationship with your customers. Now here's my experience with applying the beginner's mindset to my startup, which is Jewelbox. Now when I started Jewelbox, I obviously had no background in luxury, fashion, jewelry, gems, anything. And that actually did not confine me to traditional thinking. I was willing to learn from scratch, and I had a fresh perspective to everything. I was willing to reimagine how the industry could be instead of taking it at face value or accepting the status quo. Another thing that the beginner's mindset really helped me achieve was to think like a customer. When I did not have any jeweler or manufacturer as a predecessor to learn from, all I did was think like a customer. We have never thought like jewelers and manufacturers. At every step of the way, we have tried to identify the potential problems that customers have and solve that either with technology or systems or processes. So our consumers' lenses have always been on. Now, we knew that we were building a luxury brand and a jewelry brand, and the foundation for any such brand has to be trust. A major challenge posing us was, how do we establish Jewel Box as a brand that is credible and trustworthy? Now, to do this, we took some very simple steps thinking as a consumer. We certified and hallmarked every piece of jewelry that we made, and we also gave our customers 100% transparency in pricing, a complete drill down of the quality and price of every diamond that goes into the making of their jewelry. Simple ideas, right? But what was actually a simple idea for me proved to be really revolutionary for the brand, because it helped us gain consumer trust instantly. Now today we're just 2.5 years old. Trust takes really long to develop, but we're still catering to at least 1,000 customers every month, and with a repeat rate of 20%, which is much higher than the industry average. So that does speak about consumer love and trust in the brand. Now, just because we applied the consumer mindset does not mean that we got everything right on the go. There were challenges, we made mistakes, but we were also quick to correct our mistakes. So let's see what were some of the challenges that we saw. Balancing curiosity with focus. Now, at the heart of a beginner's mindset is experimentation. But if you know how to experiment quickly, it is also important to know how to recall your experiments quickly. There were times when our experiments were in conflict with the very identity of the brand, or there were times when experiments turned out to be overly wasteful. Now, in these situations, you must know where to really draw a limit and where to take corrective actions. The second challenge was understanding complexities. Well, a lot of times as a beginner, we end up underestimating complexities and oversimplifying things. And this leads to frustration and overconfidence. So that's one place where the beginner's mindset must be practiced with caution. The third thing that I learned was, or the third challenge was resistance to expertise. Now, a lot of beginners are resistant to expert opinion. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that startup founders make. Thinking as a beginner is great, but as a beginner, you should also embrace humility, which basically means you should be open to learning and you should be open to seeking expert opinion when required. To close, I would like to say that the beginner's mindset is not just useful in business. It's actually a way of life. It is something that can help you grow and remain relevant. It took me being a beginner to understand that it was not necessary to be an expert to innovate. All that is required is for you to be fearless, for you to be curious, and for you to have the courage to challenge the status quo. If me, having no background in jewelry, could build a trusted brand in a niche segment, then any of you here can harness the power of a beginner's mind to achieve something extraordinary. So the next time you hesitate to get into something simply because you don't have the experience in it, always remember, the greatest innovations came not because someone knew all the answers, but because someone had the courage to ask questions. So ask questions, think like a beginner, be curious and challenge the status quo. Who knows? You might just discover the next big idea hiding in plain sight. Thank you.